Hey everybody, and welcome to the behind the screen update for last night's or yesterday's behind the screen. So this is what happened with the party. Um, they went to the Orc Town. They Half the party went on rooftops, half the party went by ground, and immediately, the orcs had so they walked up to the town. They sat outside of the town until it got dark. The orcs inside are watching from the rooftops, like spying on them, seeing what's going on. The party waits till it gets dark, and then they creep into town. Two of them by road, two of them like hop on the first roof, and then kind of go from rooftop to rooftop. They only get one extra building in when six crossbowmen stand up and start shooting at the guys on the rooftop. The guys on the ground don't know because the guys on the roofs didn't say anything because that's how the party plays. They dick around a lot. So there's this ongoing back and forth with the archers on the rooftop and the orcish crossbowmen. Eventually, the party on the ground hears like these bodies falling off of buildings as the players are killing the orcs. So they like run around to find out where these bodies are and come face to face with this orc riding a giant spider. The spider bites the dwarven priest. Dwarven priest passes fails his poison save, even though because he's a dwarf, he's got decent con. His poison save was like 6, so he had to roll a 6 or higher. He rolls a 2, so he fails his poison save. He's out of it for 50 rounds because it was 2d6 turns and a turn is 10 rounds. So he's out for 50 rounds. Meanwhile, the elven fighter on the ground has 4 pikemen careening around a corner behind him. So he turns around and he starts like trying to fight these pikemen, but you can't really fight a pikeman because if you step into it, then they get attacks of opportunity on you, and it's just like a fucking nightmare. It's just like pikemen are awful to fight against. So he's doing his best to fight against those guys, while the archers on top finish off the crossbowmen, and then they turn and start shooting at the guys on the ground. Then around the other corner comes a second set of pikemen. Oh, but before that, the fighter totally just like picked up a spear, the spear that the guy on the spider had been using, and like threw it at one of the orcs, killed him that way. Like grabbed the pike, started fighting back with a pike, even though he wasn't proficient. Anyway, it was pretty badass. Anyway, so there's the elven fighter standing over the like spazzing out paralyzed dwarf, in between these two buildings in kind of like an alleyway. 4 pikemen on this side, 4 pikemen on this side. All 4 can get attacks at a time, so he's getting like 4 back attacks every round and 4 frontal attacks every round. But at the same time, he's got really high AC, so it's okay. They need like a 19 to hit him. For a back attack, they crit on a 19, I think, just because he wouldn't have his shield or his dex bonuses, and then they get +2 on top of that. So from the front, he's got AC 20. From behind, after their bonuses, he's got AC 15, so it's not that great. Anyway, so battle. Eventually, the party manages to clear them out. Just like they barely managed to clear him out. And there's some pretty cool. It was a pretty fucking epic battle. Just like the way people were describing what they were doing, the shit that went down was pretty fucking epic. So they managed to like wipe out those orcs, which is still only about half the orcs in the town. But that they had just convened at that point. The others are coming in as reinforcements. They drag the unconscious dwarf. Oh, the fighter also passed out at the very, very end of the battle. He just barely passed out. He was at 0 exactly. So they drag the paralyzed dwarf inside a building. The unconscious fighter gets dragged into the building too. The dwarf eventually unpasses out. He like comes or not passes out. Eventually is unparalyzed, and he heals the fighter. So the party's back up. They're out of heals, and low HP is low. They wait a little bit while. Fighter also dropped his sword and shield when he picked up the pike to fight with stuff. So they sneak back, grab his sword and shield, and they shoot a fire arrow to like one of the buildings in town a little ways down to try and like set something on fire. Hit it, set something on fire, and then books it the other direction. I roll to see like, okay, where's the enemy? Like, are they going to run to the enemy, or more accurately, will the enemy run into them? And so I roll some dice, and it's 219. So immediately, not only do they run into the enemy, but they run into the orc sub-chief and his bodyguards. All the bodyguards surround the fighter immediately, while the chieftain like runs back to hit the archers. Chieftain gets brought down pretty quickly, as do his other dudes, and then they keep running. And all of a sudden, there's another spider and some swordsmen. And there's another battle there for a little while, and eventually they manage to take it, but they're really, really low on HP and have no heals, and so they run out into the forest, or they leave and they just leave town. They run, but there's not a lot of orcs left right now. Actually, there's very few orcs left. They get like 12, 13 miles out of town, plop down and rest because they had to like walk all night to get there. At this point, the other player who was AWOL, he couldn't make it the beginning of the session, shows up. So we're like, okay, well, you know where they're generally going. Fine, you catch up with them, no problem. You hop in the session. So that's the mage. Mage is hanging out with them now. And they're like, okay, well, now that we've rested for a night and the priest has some heals, he throws down some heals. He's like, okay, what are we going to do? I'm like, hey, let's just go back into the town and like kill the rest of the orcs. I'm like, okay. So they walk back to town. It's evening by the time they get there because, you know, they had to walk all night and they rested during the day. Then they kind of hesitated and did some other shit. So they get back to town at night and they light a couple of buildings on fire. But of course, buildings back then burn really easily and the town's already semi-destroyed. And so they literally burned down the whole town. The orcs at this point had gone down onto the tunnels to like, well, fuck it. Our leader's gone. Our spider riders are gone. All of our pikemen are gone. Our crossbowmen are gone. Fuck it. We're gonna head back down. So the party doesn't know this, of course. They burn down the whole village, and then find the mines, and they just start going down one of the mine shafts. They go down, 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 down. They find where the miners had broken into the orc area, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they pop down in there, and immediately there are what was it? Five spiders with orcs riding them, and there's a pretty cool battle that ensues. But at some point, the mage gets hit for like 13 damage, bringing him down to 1 HP, and he's still like in the front lines for some reason. He just ended up back up there, um, and then a spider and a rider at one point. Each one of them criticals him. He takes 25 damage on top of that. Mage is dead. Mage is dead. It was pretty epic. This rider stabbed him through the face while the spider came and like ripped out his belly and his innards fell out all over the place. It was pretty sweet. After finishing off the spiders and their riders, the party grabs the body, drags it back to the surface, finds like some buildings that are still like semi on fire. It's the next day, or it's not the next day, but it's later. So most of the buildings have, but there's still some small fires burning here and there. Gather whatever wood they can find, toss it on the fire, get a nice big roaring fire, toss the mage on there, including all of his possessions, his spell book, all his scrolls, all his magic items, everything they just toss on the fire, and that's where we left off. So that's how the game went. Now the mage is dead, and he's going to make a new character. He wants to make another mage. In fact, he was saying he was asking if his character could regenerate like the doctor. So we might work out some cool backstory thing where it's like, sure, you can regenerate like the doctor, but that means you're gonna have X, blah 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 blah, all this other backstory that we never went into, and we're gonna have to give you some penalties, and I don't know, we'll figure it out. But he wants to play another mage. He likes the spells. So yeah, so we'll figure out what we're gonna do with that later. I'll let you guys know. We probably aren't gonna do behind the screen for a little while because with this Christmas, with all the shit that's coming up, it might be hard to actually play. So we might wait until the new year before we do any more D&D with them. But I will let you guys know what happens after that. They're around 5th to 6th level. This has been Behind the Screen. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Good luck, have fun, bye-bye.